All right, welcome to the first episode or edition of Settle Down Radio. I'm going to be doing this weekly on Monday mornings. I pre-recorded this one Sunday night, and basically all this is just another yapping platform to us to get our opinions out there and some sports news around the world, along with some other news as well. Can't promise it's all going to be sports related, but today's episode is definitely going to be related to sports, and really what I care about, what my brain thinks about in the sports world. So that's what's going to be circled around. See how it goes going forward. If you guys like this, we'll keep doing them. But up first, we got the PAC 6 or the six pack. Pac-12 is alive. It's back. Boise State, Fresno State, Colorado State, and San Diego State have all joined the PAC 6 or former Pac-12, along with Washington State and Oregon State. There were some rumblings. We thought maybe that this conference was going to die, and just like that, it's got life. Couple things, though. I don't know if we can consider this a Power 5 conference yet. I think that Boise State and Washington State are the two most solid football programs in this bracket. You know, like you can make a case for Fresno State, maybe Colorado State. But we're going to see how this is going to go. This is going to start in 2026. So not quite yet, but shall be interesting to see these teams fare. And it's not just football too. We get all Division I collegiate sports are going to get a boost in their program. So basketball, that means the Pac-12 is going to be, I think it's going to be interesting, the Pac-12 and basketball especially. And of course football. But it begs the question, does this conference get an automatic bid to the college football playoff? Now, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I really think it depends on the strength of schedule that these teams see. But realistically, I mean, I think there's still room for two more teams to turn it into the Pac-8. So I think in terms of those teams, though, those two teams we could see, these are my two favorite, or I guess two cases that are my favorite. One being Cal and Stanford coming back. Now, I don't know that Cal and Stanford are going to make a comeback into the Pac-12. I think that they have a superiority in their academics. They take them very serious, and I don't know that the teams that are joining fit that level of prestige. But I think they need to hang that up because they had ASU and U of A in their conference previously. So what's stopping you now? And now you're in the ACC. So I really, if they really want to travel all the way to the East Coast for this to work because of their prestigious academics, fine by me. But I just think it's stupid to hang your hat on that and tire out your players realistically. All that travel going across the country for any away game and vice versa for those teams coming over to California. So I like those two teams. I think they should come back. Will they come back? Probably not. Two teams that I think should and most likely will is going to be Memphis and Tulane. Those two programs, Tulane maybe not so much in basketball, Memphis definitely in basketball, but Memphis and Tulane in football I think would go well with these teams. Now, again, here's a travel situation. I do think it's pretty far for these two teams to travel back to the West Coast. They're more in the South, Midwest-ish, Middle South area, not on the East Coast technically, but still be a lot of travel for them. I think Memphis and Tulane are going to make a good case for this conference to be a little bit more respectable. Both of these teams, have a good record in the past couple of years in football. And, joining the Pac-12, no matter how you look at it, long-term is going to greatly benefit these teams recruiting-wise. Maybe not – there's not going to be an immediate impact right away, but down the line, I think that we're going to see, especially teams like San Diego State, kind of not dominate, but get better at recruiting, draw some more players to them. So I think it's going to be a big game changer regardless. But yeah, Cal and Stanford I see as an interesting. Maybe they'll come back. I don't think it'll happen. I think Memphis and Tulane are the most likely. And there's still a case for other teams too. I think UNLV is a case to be made to come over with what they've been doing. Ranked yesterday, Sunday, in the top 25 by the coaches. So there's a case for them to jump over to the PAC, whatever you want to call it, PAC 6. We'll call it the 6-pack for now. But yeah, I think there's a case for them as well. But on to the next is Mr. Ashton Gentry. If you guys don't know, we're big Boise State fans across this network. Some of us still living in Boise, including myself. And this man has been on our radars for the last 2 years, and now he's finally getting some national attention. Now, right now he sits second in most rushing yards in the college football, and he's tied for touchdowns. He's got 9 touchdowns, tied with Dylan Sampson of Tennessee, and he is only 20 yards behind the first place, or he's 20 yards behind the player in first for rushing yards. He's currently at 459 rushing yards, and person in first place, who I forget the name of, I didn't write it down, is 20 yards ahead of that. 20 yards ahead of that. So they're at 479. He's a beast. We've been watching him for the past 2 years with our own 2 eyes, and now the TV's covering him a lot more. He did win Freshman of the Year 2 years ago. So he's got a case there that, he's been making his steps towards, but now he's in the conversation for the Heisman race. A lot of analysts have him as favorites, if not number 1, definitely in their top 5. But a lot of people have him at number 1. And even this week, those stats I just read with 459 yards and 9 touchdowns, being second place in rushing yards and tied for first in touchdowns. He didn't play this last Saturday. And this guy's that far ahead of people. Next week, Boise State plays Portland State. Really bad FCS program. And this is a bold prediction here, but I'm going to say that Ashton Gentry's coming back on top after this Saturday. Almost 200 rushing yards per game. He had 192 against Oregon. 6 touchdowns against Georgia Southern. So he's an absolute beast. And, he's going to continue to beef those stats up. But Oregon State and their fandom on Twitter had made some claims the last couple of weeks, especially after the Oregon game Boise State played. Oregon State played them this last Saturday, and they claim that they have 2 Genties on their team, and Anthony Hankerson and Giovanni McCoy. Now, yes, these 2 players had a good second week, combined for, I want to say, 350 yards or something like that. But against Oregon, both combined, they had 21 carries, 109 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Jeanty last week had 25 carries, 192 yards, and 3 touchdowns by himself, not with the help of another man. That was his stats alone. So I think you Oregon State fans are on crack. I don't know what the thought process was there. Everyone, I think Ashton Gentry is going to be getting a lot of this year. Playing for Boise State, he's going to get a lot of hate not a lot of hate, but maybe just he's going to get a lot of criticism, let's say, that, he's not playing the toughest opponents, whatever you want to say about him. If this guy's getting 200 yards per game, give him that Heisman. No one else deserves it, especially if he's cracking a couple 3+ touchdowns each game. There's no reason why he shouldn't be number 1 unanimous Heisman winner. So we'll see if that keeps up. Obviously praying for his health and everything like that, but he is definitely a name to look out for. I think he's going to be a top 5 pick in the NFL draft this coming year. Sad to say that he's going to be leaving Boise State, but I think it's something that we've prepared for as a fandom, and we know this is coming. And all the best to him. Go live it up in the NFL. I believe in him. Also, this last Thursday, Tua Tagovailoa, however you say his last name, gets the third concussion in the last 2 years. Obviously, he had back-to-back ones back in the 2022 season. Scary, scary stuff from him. You never want to see that from a player with his hands and just everything that he's done. He needs to hang it up. This is for medical reasons. I think a conversation needs to be had with someone close to him that can tell him, like, hey, you can't keep doing this. You can't. And I think that this life is just too fragile to waste on a game, right? Obviously, a lot of us care about these sports, care about these teams. Obviously, he's been working his whole life to get to where he's at right now. But none of that matters if, you carry on and God forbid you lose your life early when you shouldn't have. And football is a physical sport. This is what comes with the territory. I get that. But there's also a need for personal health and personal safety. And, some people might want to call people pussies for retiring early, like Andrew Luck recently did. But, you really have to prioritize your health in this situation, because you can make all the money in the world, play the sport you love for as long as you can, but you still got a life after that. You still got a family after that cares about you. So I think it's time for him to hang it up, frankly. 3 concussions in the last 2 years is already a scary thing. And, I haven't heard anything about him possibly coming back this season. I know there's some reports of him saying that he has no plans on retiring, but I don't think that's very wise of him. I really don't. But what do I know, right? Last thing on here, though, is the UFC. I watched the UFC card last night. Saturday, I guess, for you watching on Monday. But I honestly, okay, this is biased. I haven't watched the UFC very closely, and maybe this is just a bad card. I've heard that. But there needs to be something done about these fighters that come on and just wrestle these people. And it's a boring fight. I'm sorry. The UFC has gotten very boring to me. And, I get it. There's a whole technical side of that stuff. I am watching it unfold and I'm like, I get it. This guy's dominating. But UFC, if you're going to charge $80 a pay-per-view and that's what you're going to show to the people in the Sphere of all places too, like I can't imagine how much those tickets were, and to be disappointed to watch a fight like that. And again, I get it. It's very technical. It's very, maybe it's just my mind. I don't want to watch that, and I probably just shouldn't watch it in the future. And I know there's a sport out there that people love the side of that, and I get that. I'm not saying that the UFC should go away, but from what I remember the UFC being as a kid growing up in the 2000s and watching that every month with my dad and uncles and everyone, it's not the same. It's really not. And, I know people say, oh, if you want to go watch people punch, go watch boxing. And you know what? I might, because even then, though, they're wrapping up against each other. So it's just not the most entertaining thing to me. And I feel like there could be something done about it. What that would be, I don't even know how you'd create rules around that. I really don't. I'm just sitting here bitching and moaning. I'm not proposing any changes. I can try to think of one. Maybe I don't know. I can't think of anything, because you can't really just take it out completely. You know, it's mixed martial arts. I get it. Wrestling's a part of that. But maybe if there's no movement being done or nothing, you see, you can't break them up though. Like, it'll just be a waste. I can't think of any solutions other than me stop watching UFC. And that's what I'm going to do. You know, people always say, oh, this is going to be a great card. This is going to be a great card. And just, I want those electric finishes. And I get that you can't always get that. You know, I guess if I'm really thinking about it, there's games that you watch of football that are just a blowout and you're just like, oh, this is boring, right? I get that. But something about these Eastern European fools coming over and just draining their opponent, sitting on them, being on top of them, and just snooze fest, UFC. And I don't even know what you do. Create another sport. I don't even know. I have no resolution for that on how to fix it. But, you know, there's a lot of technique to it, so I get it. And I'm going to butt out of the UFC. But I just had to give my 2 cents there because, honestly, as a fan, on the outside looking in, someone who enjoyed UFC back in the heyday, or not the heyday, I mean, I guess you could say now is the heyday, but back in what I thought was the heyday, watching those people throw punches and, you know, I don't mind the ground and pound, the whole thing. I don't mind that at all. I enjoy watching the jiu-jitsu part of things and, you know, the takedowns, but there's something about a dude going in there and just laying on top of his opponent, not letting him get up, that just bores the hell out of me. And I feel like it bores a lot of people. And, you know, I don't really know how you're going to solve that. I really don't. I don't think you can. So I'm just going to stop watching. And, you know, people watching this who love the UFC probably are like, good, we don't want you. So I'll do that. I'll keep out. But, yeah, that is pretty much it. Short episode here. You know, I just kind of want to try this out. To get some content for social media, anything like that, to kind of spread it out. But next week, we'll see where we're at. You know, I think right now too, it's just football heavy. Once hockey and even the World Series and basketball is all back into play in October, it's going to be a lot of fun. October, November. But yeah, mainly football this week and a little shit talk of the UFC. So if you guys like this, let me know in the comments and I'll keep doing this. Maybe have some people on. I'll do these live every once in a while. I pre-recorded this one, but yeah,